So let us have a quick revision of conical ball mill, and then we go for the theory part of the conical ball mill. The conical ball mill will be consisting of three major parts. One is the diverging cone, the second one is the cylindrical part, and then next one we have the converging cone. So the length of the diverging cone is less, whereas the length of the converging cone is more. So this is there because as soon as the feed of appropriate size of or uniform size enters the ball mill, immediately it will be going to the zone of crushing with this steep angle, and then here also we are going to keep grinding medium stainless steel balls of bigger sizes, because since the size of the feed initially is more, so hence we require a greater size of grinding medium to crush this particle. And as the particle sizes decrease, what will happen? It will try to concentrate along the axis of the ball mill, because as the mass is less, it will be experiencing less amount of centrifugal force. So we are supposed to increase the centrifugal force on this particular object. How it is possible? By reducing the denominator. So that is the reason why we have a converging nozzle at this particular end. We have already seen the formula also. So with this, what we are doing is we are increasing the centrifugal force of the object, so thus it tries to go away, and as it tries to go away, it will be taking the greater blow from the grinding medium. And already we have seen that as the size of the particle decreases, keeping the same size of spherical balls initially, it will not work out. So hence the size of the spherical balls will also be reduced. So apart from that, also we have seen that if the size of the particle is small, it will be accommodated inside the void fractions of the large spherical balls. So to avoid this also, we are going to replace, or if it is possible, create channels and then see that the particle passes through the segmented baffles, and then they move in the right and left hand side direction, and then the crushing takes place. And the majority of the ball mills, they will be operating on a continuous basis. And with the help of a conical grate, the feed will be displaced and it will be taken out. Or in case of a batch process, we will open the manhole and then we charge the particles, and then the crushing takes place, and afterwards we open the manhole and then we tilt the ball mill as we tilt the ball mill in our laboratory. All the solids and then the particles, grinding medium, and then the crushed particles will fall down. We will hand pick the solid grinding medium and then put it back for further use. Whereas this particle which has obtained crushed material, we will be subjecting for sieving. So here what is the principle, sir? The spherical ball will be, the grinding medium will be rising to a particular height, and from there it is supposed to fall. So we are supposed to increase the speed up to that point. Suppose if you increase the speed of the ball mill, then what will happen? Even the grinding medium will also not fall from the top, and then simply all the particles will be rotating. So this is called as centrifuging, which is a very bad thing. And I also informed you that we will, in some cases, we are going to put water into the ball mill, so that in this fractions, the solid particles will be displaced and they will come to the vicinity of size reduction zone. So this is how the crushing takes place in this. And let us see the other part of this text. Yeah. So action in the tumbling mill. So these are called as the tumbling mills, where in some cases we can keep spherical grinding medium made up of stainless steel. We can keep pebbles, put spherical balls, in some cases rods, in some cases tubes. So depending upon the nature of the material, we are going to choose this tumbling mill category. So action in tumbling mills. The load of balls in the ball or the tube mill is normally such that when the mill is stopped, the balls occupy about 1/2 of the volume of the mill. So this is how we are going to load the grinding medium inside the cylindrical portion of the ball mill. So if an attempt is made to increase this volume, so we will not have a free space for fall, and then the crushing will not take place. So hence minimum loading will be half, and then we are supposed to see that next point, the void fraction in the mass of the balls when at rest is typically 0.4. So once you charge the grinding medium and you see that the half of the volume, so we know the radius or the diameter of the cylindrical shell, you know the length of it, calculate the volume of it, and then you take individual particles or individual grinding medium, because I said spherical balls of different sizes are used. So you take individual particle, measure its diameter, find its volume, and multiply with, add them everything, and then thus you get the Wyatt fraction. So you see that the Wyatt fraction is 0.4. So these are the two prerequisites how we are going to load the ball mill by means of grinding medium. First point is we can load up to half, and the second one is we are supposed to maintain Wyatt fraction as 0.4. The grinding may be solids, but more commonly the feed is a suspension of particles in the water. So as I said just now, not only dry grinding is preferred, but we can also use water, but the main purpose of water is to what? To displace the Wyatt fraction so that the particle will not be seated or comfortably placed in between the free space. So if it is there in the free spaces, the grinding medium will rise and fall only on the grinding medium. So thus crushing will not take place, but we are giving energy to the machine. So this will be contributing to lesser efficiency or less performance of the particle. This increases both the capacity and the efficiency of the mill. So hence, if we make an attempt that whenever the grinding medium is raised and it falls from top to bottom, and definitely at the point of fall, if a particle is present, definitely it will be impacted and its size reduction will be taking place. So if we are able to maintain this condition, definitely the efficiency, whatever the energy which we are giving to the machine, that will be successfully used for creating new surface area. So hence the efficiency of the machine increases. Keeping this as a fact, if you go on increasing, adding the water, then what will happen? The spherical grinding medium rises, first it falls on the surface of the liquid, loses some amount of energy, then travels in the water and then strikes the particle. Again, there is a problem. So the loading of water is also very important. Discharge opening at appropriate positions control the liquid level in the mill, which would be such that the suspension just fills the white space in the mass of the ball. So as I said just now, that is the application, that is the use of the using water in a ball. Okay, so only to see that the Wyatt fractions are filled, and for this control the levels of the liquid, that is important, because you know very well, as in a ball mill, when we are going from inlet to outlet, the diameter of the spherical balls are changing. When the diameters of the spherical balls are changing, the Wyatt fractions will also change. So initially there may be more, water loading may be required is high, but as we go to the discharge, the spherical balls are decreasing, size of the spherical balls are decreasing, Wyatt fraction will also decrease, and then there may be require lesser amount of the water. So we are supposed to control levels of the water inside the ball mill. Then when the mill is rotated, the balls are picked up by the mill wall and carried nearly to the top. As I said in the previous classes, once you start the mill, first how do you fix the value of the critical speed of the ball? Remember, in this same class I am going to give you where we can find the critical speed of the ball. But what is the meaning of critical speed of a ball? So in the cylindrical portion, when it is rotating, when you keep an object there or when you keep a grinding medium there, what will happen? The grinding medium also rises to certain height and then rolls down. So you in the next cycle you increase the RPM of the shell. Again the grinding medium rises to certain height and then falls down. You increase the RPM up to such a state that the grinding medium rises to the top of the shell, and there it detaches. Why it detaches? Because the centrifugal force will be less than the gravitational force. And thus what will happen? The point of contact breaks and the particle falls because of gravity. And as it is falling in the direction or in the length of diameter, which is the longest chord of a circle, we will have a maximum path traveled by the particle so that impact force can be more. That is the significance of this design. So once you try to again increase, what will happen? The point of contact will not break, because once you increase the RPM, what will happen? The centrifugal force will be increased, then the gravitational force, then the object, then the grinding medium will not detach from the top, and then it goes as it is. So this is called as centrifuging, which is a very bad thing. So like this, we have to conduct first an experiment to find physically what is the critical speed of a ball mill. by virtually observing into it and then fix it. And majority of the cases just run it at 99.99% of the critical speed. If the critical speed is 1 revolutions per second, then you go at 0.99 revolutions per second, just one value less. So if you try to rotate the ball mill slightly less than critical speed, then you will not have a problem of centrifuging. That is important. So the main purpose is what? The shell is rotated to lift the grinding medium to the maximum height. When the mill is rotated, the balls are picked up by the mill wall and carried nearly to the top. Yes, it is carried. When they break the contact with the wall and fall to the bottom and to be picked up again. So once they fall down, what will happen? Since the mill is continuously rotating, the spherical ball, after hitting the particle, again it resumes its journey to rise up. Then only further crushing will take place. The centrifugal forces keeps the balls in contact with the wall and with each other during the upward movement. While in contact with the wall, the balls do some grinding by slipping or rolling over the other. But most of the grinding occurs at the zone of impact. Falling balls strike the bottom of the mill. That is important. So unfortunately or fortunately, because of some reasons, if the spherical balls are slipping over one another and the crushing, the particle there in between, crushing will take place. That is also contributing to a process of crushing. But majority of the crushing will come only when rising. The grinding medium is rising to the maximum height, and from there it will fall. That is the important part. The faster the mill is rotated, the farther the wheels are. The faster the mill is rotated, the farther the balls are carried up inside and the mill, and the greater the power consumption. So, as just now, if you increase the RPM of the ball mill, what will happen? The balls will stick to the metal of construction and they will not detach from the top. And this is the process of centrifuging. So, we are continuously giving energy for the rotation or maintaining the rotation of the cylindrical shell, but there is no crushing is taking place. So power consumption is increasing. The added power is profitably used. The added power is profitably used because the higher the balls are when they are released and the greater the impact at the bottom. So as they rise to the greater height and they try to fall from there only, we will have some impact force will be high and the particle will be reduced. And the larger the productive capacity of the mill. So what is the productivity of the mill? What it is exactly doing? It is decreasing the size of the particles to increase the surface area. That's what the work done by the machine. So if the spherical balls or the grinding mediums are falling from the greatest height, then of course the productivity of the mill will be increased. If the speed is too high, however, the balls are carried over and the mill is said to be centrifuging. So centrifuging is a disadvantageous thing where the ball mill will be rotating with a higher RPM and the spherical balls will not be detaching at the topmost elevation. They just carried away by it. Because of it, crushing will not take place, but we are giving energy or the power is consumed by the machine. Crushing is not taking place. The speed at which centrifuging occurs is called the critical speed. And as I said just now, we should run the ball mill just little below the critical speed. Little or no grinding is done when the mill is centrifuging. The operating speed must be less than the critical speed. So, critical speed formula is there. We will give the formula. We will establish the formula. We will establish a numerical value for it, but slightly less than that we are supposed to operate, so that we will be avoiding the process of centrifuging, and then the process of size reduction will be taking place. Next, the speed at which the outermost balls lose contact with the wall of the mill depends on the balance between gravitational force and centrifugal force. This is the only physics principle used in here. Whenever there is an object is there in a revolving body, it will be experiencing rotating field. It will be experiencing a centrifugal force. Centrifugal force is the force with which it is thrown away from the center. So if the centrifugal force should be maximum, so that it will be sticking to the wall of the container, because the container will not allow the particle to go out from the system. So the container is holding the spherical ball or the grinding medium. Up to what point we want it to hold? We don't want to hold it for permanently. We wanted to hold it up to the topmost point, and there immediately the gravitational force suddenly should be more. So it will fall because of the gravity. So these are the two forces which are responsible for us. And today we are going to see a formula for the estimating the centrifugal force of a ball mill. This can be shown by aid of a diagram which is shown in the next slide. Consider a spherical. Okay, I'll show you the diagram first. Yeah. So this is the circle, okay, where the radius is r. That is the diameter. Sorry, that is the radius of the cylindrical portion of the ball mill. And then you have here we have a small grinding medium which is present at an elevation. So after rotating this spherical, initially what did I say? The particle will be at this point. So once you start ball mill water with some RPM, what will happen? It will rise to this point and again it will roll down. In the second point, again increase the RPM. So spherical ball will rise up to this point and again will roll down. Again increase the RPM, it rises to this point and again roll down. So now you increase, now we know how it is happening. So now you increase the RPM in such a manner, at this point or this point it will start falling from top to bottom. That is important. So now in this diagram it is shown that at any instant of time the grinding medium at a point which makes an angle alpha with the vertical. Now we know the radius of the spherical grinding medium is smaller. So distance between the center of the ball mill and the center of the object is given by capital R minus small r. So we know the centrifugal formula is given by mu square by r by gc. M is mass of the grinding medium, and then u is the velocity, and then r minus small r is the distance between the center of the spherical grinding medium and the center of the, and then gc we know. So similarly, you know mass mg by gc. So since it is making an angle at this angle, so if you always acts in the downward direction. So if you take some forces parallel to the central axis, then of course we are supposed to resolve it. Okay, mg cos alpha by gc. So because the component of this line in this direction will be cos mg cos alpha by gc. Suppose if you take vertical axis like that will be sine. So we don't want that force. So we want to concentrate only on these forces. So one force will be acting away from the center. One force will be pulling the object towards the center. Okay, so that is the component of the gravitational force. So now at this point what will happen? This value should be more and this value should be less. Then the particle breaks the contact and falls down. Okay, so this is about this diagram. Yeah. So this can be shown in the aid of the diagram which we have seen just now. Consider the grinding medium or the ball at a point A on the periphery of the mill, because the spherical ball will be moving along the guided path of the container or the cylindrical portion. So hence he is using the word periphery of the mill. Let the radii of the mill on the ball be r and capital R. Capital R is the radius of the mill and small r is the radius of the grinding medium. So the center of the ball is then r minus r meters from the axis of the mill. Let the radius AO makes an angle alpha with the vertical as we have seen just now. The two forces act on the ball. The first one is the force of gravity mg by gc acting always in the downward direction, where m is the mass of the ball. The second one is the centrifugal force, which is given by this formula, where omega is equal to 2 pi n and n is equal to rotational speed of the machine. So first what step is that we are going to measure the rotational speed, and with the help of rotational speed we will find omega, and once we know the omega, you know v is equal to r omega. So that is how we are going to get the value of velocity. The centrifugal component of the force of gravity is given by this formula, and then the force opposes the centrifugal force as long as the centrifugal force exceeds the centripetal force. What is centripetal force here? The other component or the gravitational component which is resolved in the direction of centrifugal force will be the centripetal force. As long as the centrifugal force exceeds the centripetal force, the particle will not break the contact with the wall. So it will be happily moving along with the wall of the container. This is what we require till the spherical ball reaches the maximum height. And as the angle alpha decreases, however, the centrifugal force increases, and unless the speed exceeds a critical point, the point is reached where opposing forces become equal and the particle will break because of the is ready to fall away, and the angle at which this occurs equating the two forces will give this one. So what will happen at the topmost thing? I said slightly. I said concept is what? The gravitational component, the gravitational force should be slightly greater than the centrifugal force. Then only the particle will burn. So mathematically, we think that they are equal to each other, and with this equation, we will find with this equation, we will find the value of small n. And then when at the critical speed alpha is equal to 0, so when alpha is equal to 0, cos alpha will be, and n will become critical speed, and this is the formula for the critical speed of the ball mill. That is nc is equal to 1 by 2 pi square root of g by r minus small r, where g is acceleration to gravity, r is equal to radius of the ball mill, r is equal to radius of the grinding medium. So here we can make one thing. This value will be fixed as long as the value of the r is fixed, and then the spherical ball which we have taken, that is also fixed. But in reality, what will happen? We are keeping n number of spherical balls. So how do we calculate it? So we take n number of spherical balls which are added to the system. We will measure the diameters, and after measuring the diameters, then what will happen? You take the average of it and divide it by 2, you get the value of r. So this is how we are going to fix the value of r in this case. So all these values will be given to you, and you are supposed to find the critical speed. Tumbling mills run at 65 to 80% of the critical speed, not only one fraction less, but when you this statement will be applied when we have only one grinding medium. But when you are adding n number of things, you can imagine what is the situation. So now he says that the tumbling mills can run at 65 to 80% of the critical speed. So once you know the critical speed of the ball mill, but theoretically it is 1 RPM, then if it is 0.65 or 0.8, it is accepted to run the machine, with the lower values for wet grinding in the viscous suspensions. Okay. What is viscous suspensions and wet grinding here? When we pour water into the ball mill, that becomes a wet grinding. Yeah. Then after this, we have ultrafine grinders, next category. So ultrafine grinders, of course, you know, their size reduction is very high. They are going to reduce the particles of very small sizes. Let us see the diagram first, then we go to this. Yeah. So this is a very important from the examination point of view also, where this is called as micro atomizer. Yeah, it is called as a micro atomizer. Now you can see it title. So here, if you see, it is like a pipeline which is having a shaft and which is having a fan also. So the main point will be from here our feed will enter, and here if you see, this is a screw conveyor. So this will facilitate a constant dosage of materials to the size reduction zone. So here we have a central shaft, and this is the external casing. And then as the feed is entering, what will happen? The central shaft will be carrying hammers. This is one hammer, this is the second hammer. Like that, you can have one more hammer here, one more hammer here. And that will be rotating inside a casing. So as soon as the particle comes here, what happens? It will take the blow of this hammer, which is rotating with some RPM, and then what will happen? The particle goes away from the center because it is taking the blow of the hammer, so it will go away from the center. So once it is going away from the center, again it will be going and hitting on the material of construction, and then again it will break. So after breaking, what happens is we are supposed to remove the solid particles. How to remove the solid particles? So now you see, we are having fans. Two fans are mounted on the same shaft. And when the fan is rotating, what will happen? The fan, what it will do? It will be taking the air from the system and it will be throwing out. So air is actually closed, and from here the air enters, and then the air is thrown out from the system. So when air enters, what happens? There is a small gap between the hammers and the metal of construction, which decides the size of the product. Please remember this. So what happens is that there is a small gap is there between the hammers and the casing of the system. So that in this gap only the particles will be coming out. So now once you throw the the particles are hit, what will happen? They will be going away from the center. Now when they are going away from the center, what will happen? They will go and again hit to the metal of construction. Again the size reduction takes place. But what will happen to the size of small particles? These small particles, they try to come through this narrow gap because their sizes are very small, and they will be dragged by the air which is blown. From that the fans are rotating. So the fans, what to do? They will be displacing the air from the system. They will be taken out. So there is a movement of air is created inside. Of this, what happens? The fine particle will be moving towards the particles will be moving away from the center. This is the logic behind the entire construction. The small particles will be moving toward the center because they are dragged by the air, whereas the larger particles will move away from the center and they take the blows of the grinding medium, and then the crushing takes place. So this is and we can also adjust the separator vanes clearance so that we can alter the requirement of the product size. Suppose if somebody is asking 1 nanometer, we can keep it. If it is 2 nanometer, 0.5 nanometer, so these kind of things will be done by means of adjusting the separator vane. Okay, so air enters and then the envelope plate is the covering part of it. Okay, and this continuous dosing is done here. The particle takes the blow and then it goes out from here. So this is how in an ultrafine grinder the crushing will take place, where particles of very small sizes are obtained and they will be sent out from the system. It is a continuous mixture. Yeah. Many commercial powders must contain particles averaging from 1 to 20 micrometers in size, with substantially all particles passing through 325 mesh screens. So now see, in the Taylor standard screens, our limitation was only 200 mesh. So now we have gone to 325 mesh. In the 325 mesh, what will be the clear opening? It will be very less. So it means what? After the Taylor series has been established, in between we are free to add the screens. But what should be the ratio? It should be square root of 2, and in between two mesh numbers, it is square root of 2 to the power of 1/4. This is the ratio we are supposed to maintain it. So since the demand is increasing, we are now going for the 325 mesh. So what is the meaning of it? The ultrafine grinders will be giving products which will be passing through a standard 325 mesh screen, and that has an opening of 44 micrometers wide. Mills that reduce solids to such a fine particles are called ultrafine grinders. Ultrafine grinding of dry products is done by grinders such as high-speed hammer mills, provided with internal and external classification. So what is meaning of classification? Separation of solid particles in the air and the feed enters to a classifier. So smaller sized particles will go from the top, larger sized particles will fall from the bottom. That separation is called as classification. In case of a clarifier, all the solids which are entering from the feed, they go from the bottom only and the air goes from the top. So this is the clarification, but he is talking about classification because we are not interested in clarification, because the heavier size particles are to be retained back into the machine. They should take the blow of the hammer mills and then the size reduces. When their size reduces, they will be drawn towards the center by the air, and through the air they can go out happily. That is the meaning. Name classification. Till the size reduction takes place, they will be present inside the system only. And fluid energy or jet mills. Ultrafine grinding, ultrafine wet grinding is done in agitated mills, which we'll see after some time. Yeah. So whatever microatomizer we have seen now, that is the example of this one. Classifying hammer mills. A hammer mill with internal classification microatomizer, which we have seen just now. A set of swinging hammers, okay, is held between two rotor discs such as conventional hammer mill. So we have a shaft first and we have two discs because we are supposed to carry the hammer. So we keep two circular discs on the shaft and then we place the hammers, and this shaft will be rotating. So as the shaft is rotating, what will happen? The hammers will also rotate. So the hammers will be giving the blows to the particle which enters from the top by means of a screw conveyor to keep m dot as constant, so that constant dosing will be. And once the crushing takes place, the air facilitates, it takes away the small particles through the gap between the casing and the separator vane product output. In addition to the hammers, the rotor shaft carries two fans, which draw air through the mill in the direction as shown in the figure and discharge into the ducts leading to the collectors for the product. So, because again, the solid particles has to be separated from the air, so we can keep a cyclone separator or a dust or a bag filter. All the air will be trapped, and then the solids will. On the rotor disc are short radial vanes for separating the oversized particles of the acceptable size. So as we adjust the distance between the separator vane and the material of construction, then what will happen? Then only we can out. If it is adjusted to one number, 0.1 millimeters, then of course we get a product of 1 millimeters only. We also get a product if the size is less than 1 or no problem. But if the size is more than 0.1 millimeters, that will be not coming out. That will be present inside the system only. It will be taking. So it is coming out through this small gap is air takes it out from the system. Remember, we are blowing continuously air into the system. So since not resist the drag force exerted by the air, so they come out with the air through the small gap and they goes out. Whereas the heavier particles, they try to stay inside, they take the blows of the hammers for further reduction to take place. In the grinding chamber, the particles are solid or high rotational velocity. Why high? Because air is blown, so air is continuously moving inside the system, and because of this, solid particles will also move along with the air, and they will be taking the blows of the. Coarse particles are concentrated along the wall of the chamber. What is a coarse particle? Coarse particle here refers to larger size particles. Larger size particles will have more amount of mass. More amount of mass means more amount of centrifugal force. More amount of centrifugal force means what? They will be thrown away from the center. So they will be concentrating along of the container. For what purpose? To take the blows of the hammers. Coarse particles are concentrated the wall of the chamber because of the centrifugal force acting on them. The airstream carries the finer particle inward from the grinding zone towards the shaft. So toward the shaft, why it is, since its small size is small, it cannot experience any amount of centrifugal force, and since continuously air is going through the small gap, because we cannot restrict the air. Once you pump the air, it goes out from a leakage, isn't it? So like that, the gap between the separator vanes and the metal of construction is a small gap, so through which the air leaks. So as air leaks, if the particle is also smaller than this gap, it passes through it. This is the logic behind it. The air stream carries the fine particles inward the grinding zone towards the shaft in the direction A to B. The separator vanes tends to throw the particles outward in the direction BA. Which particles? Particles whose sizes are more, they will be traveling in the direction B to A, whereas the smaller particles will be traveling from a direction A to B. So let me show you the diagram once again. Yeah, A to B. A to B and B to A. So if the size of the particle is less, it will go from A to B. If the size of the particle takes the blows and then becomes smaller particles, then only it can come out from the system. Yeah. Whether or not a given particle passes between the separator vanes and out to discharge depends on which force predominates. Now, force is the thing which we cannot control. What we can control is the size of the particle. The simple logic is what? If the size of the particle is small, it will be experiencing less amount of centrifugal force. So one force will be predominating, the drag force will be predominating. So that has to accept the drag force and it has to come out from the system. Okay. Suppose if its size is more, if the size of the particle is more, its mass is more, so centrifugal force is more. So the centrifugal force is more, what will happen? It will not accept the drag force, so it will go away from the center and then take the blows of the particle for further side reduction. The drag exerted by the air or the centrifugal force exerted by the vanes are important. Acceptably fine particles are carried through. Particles that are too large are thrown back for further reduction in the grinding chamber. The maximum particle size of the product is carried by changing the rotor speed and size and the number of separator rates. See the statement. The maximum particle size of the product is varied by changing the rotor speed. What is rotor speed here? Because as the rotor speed is changing, what will happen? Two things will happen. The number of times the hammer striking the ball, the grinding wheel, the number of times hammer striking the particle decreases. At the same time, the rate at which we are sucking the air into the system will also decrease. Then, is varied by changing the rotor speed and the size and the number of separator. You are keeping how many separator vanes are shown that there are 2 are there. You can keep 3 or 4 also. But as you keep, what will happen? You will be seeing that the further size only the small size particles will be coming out. There is no chance for product distribution. Distribution of the product is not there in this case. Mills of this kind reduce 1 or 2 ton per hour. See, the capacity has fallen drastically when compared to the primary crushes. Primary crushes will do heavy duty and their capacities are very high. Whereas this one, as we try to come this place, what will happen? The capacities are decreasing. And to an average size of 1 to 20 micrometers. So this is the product which is obtained from these ultrafine grinders or micro atomizers. This is also an important question from the examination point of view. With an energy requirements of about 40 kilowatts per metric ton. So directly he has given the value of P by m dot consume and m dot, that is 10 metric ton per hour, as he is given to us. So next one will be fluid and let us see the diagram first. So this is the almost the last size selection equipment. From here again we will go to the rotor knife cutter. So here you see this is the diagram of a fluid energy mill which can particles of very small sizes. So the entire setup is in the form of a pipeline which is present in the loop. Okay, so it is a loop, oval shape it is there. So first step is what? Air or steam is sent from the bottom. High pressure air or steam. High pressure air or steam, approximately 10 atmosphere steam is sent from the bottom. And as it is sent from the bottom, these are the nozzles, energizing nozzles. So through a narrow gap, what will happen? This high pressure stream will be leaking with the highest velocity into the system. So what will happen? As it is introduced, this will be moving in a loop. So high turbulence is high there because the velocities are very high because it is released with a high pressure through the energizing nozzles. So here we have a lot of turbulence. Okay. So now what we do is with the help of a conveyor belt, the feed will be falling into an hopper in a controlled manner here by adjusting this lever. It will be falling into this. So now when they are falling, what will happen? Here we have an injector. So a part of the inlet air or steam is diverted by means of the small pipeline that is introduced here. And with this, what will happen? It will be throwing the particles in this direction because it is adjusted in such a manner the gas or the steam will come from this side only. It cannot go back. Okay, that is how it is introduced. So now as it is introduced, what will happen? So here the particle is present. So it is slowly coming. But by the time it comes, what will happen? It will comes in contact with a fluid which is having high velocity. So hence it will gain more amount of momentum and thus it starts moving with a high value. And as they move, what will happen? These particles, they will be moving in this zigzag direction and hence what will happen? The size reduction will take place because of pushing of each and every particle. Attrition between the particles is the most important concept here for the size reduction to take place. And then if any particle is rubbing against the walls of the container, what will happen? Its size will be decreased. That is a secondary issue. But how the major size reduction is taking place, it is only because of interparticulate accretion. How it is possible? Because the particles are introduced into a high turbulence zone. We create a high turbulence zone, and there we are going to introduce these solid particles, and thus the particle reduction takes place. So can you imagine, as the size of the particle is decreasing, it is virtually impossible for us to touch the particle and then apply the force. So now we have left it as it is, and then the particles enter, the crushing takes place. So you can imagine how much amount of pressure we are using here, how much amount of energy which we are using here in the form of air and steam, and what we are getting exactly. What is the reduction ratio? It is very less. So logic is what? When we have a higher reduction ratio from 10 centimeters to 1 millimeter, 1 millimeter to 0.1 millimeter reduction ratios. So as the size of the particle is decreasing, it is very difficult for us to nip the particle and then apply the forces. So here you will see how much amount of energy we are just expending for what purpose? For getting very small size of particles which are already small in size. So this is an example of a fluidized energy melt. Now here what happens is that, now whenever the particles are moving, whether it is small size or a very big size, immaterial for us. If the size of the particle is more in that particular population, it will be going away from the center, concentrating on the walls of the container. It will, because of the frictional or rubbing between all, the size action takes place. But if the size of the particle is reduced, what will happen? That will be concentrating on this line, this side, inner side. This is the central part. So inner side will be concentrated. So now suddenly what I will do is, from here I will try to suck the air and then take it out. So when I take it out, what will happen? Along with some gas or this air or steam, some particles will come along with that. What are they? They are the smallest size of the particles, because the smallest size of the particles will have less amount of mass. They will experience less amount of centrifugal force. So hence they will be concentrating near the central axis of the particle. The central axis of the fluidized energy. So an attempt is made to remove the solid particles along this wall, whereas along this wall nothing is there, because the sizes of the particle will be more, which will be moving in this particular fashion. So this is how they discharge the product out, material and spent fluid out. So from here it goes out, whereas the feed is admitted from here. Okay, so this is about the fluid energy mill, which is also very important from the final examination point of view, because these are very simpler diagrams to draw rather than drawing a hammer wheels or whatever. Yeah. Fluid energy mills. In these mills, the particles are suspended in high velocity streams. As I said, air or the stream, high pressure air or stream is admitted from the bottom. So it enters from the nozzles, energizing. What is an energizing nozzle? It is a small nozzle. What is a nozzle? A nozzle is a small piece of pipe whose diameter is decreasing in the direction of fluid flow. That is called as a nozzle. And we know very well, whenever the fluid is passing through a pipeline whose diameter is decreasing, its velocity increases tremendously. Now here, what is the purpose for us to increase the velocity? Because we wanted to create high turbulence. For that purpose, the name is energized nozzle is coming to the picture. In these mills, the particles are suspended in high velocity gas streams. So first step is what? You try to send the air or steam at high pressures. Then after a certain amount of time, then you try to open the feed valve, and through the injector that will be striking or coming into the fluidized energy with the high velocities, because you are diverting a part of air or steam to a pipeline to the feed pipeline, so that we give some momentum transfer which takes place inside the pipe, and then the particles will attain high velocity, and from there they move into the system. In some designs, the gas flows in a circular or elliptical path. So depending upon the shape of the fluidized energy mill. So here we have seen a longest loop. Okay, it is there. So in some designs, the gas flows in a circular or elliptical path. In others, there are jets that oppose one another or vigorously agitate a fluidized bed. So when they try to agitate a fluidized bed, then of course again because as the bed is agitated, it will be moving, it will be striking each other particular materials, and then the size reduction takes place when the particle is in between two grinding medium, the size reduction takes place. But that is not shown in the flow sheet or the diagram. Some reduction occurs when the particle strikes or rub against the walls of the confining chamber. Okay, but most of the reduction is believed to be caused by interparticle attrition. That's what I said. So once we admit the feed through the wall, through the feed nozzle, what will happen? It strikes the system with a high velocity, and then there some amount of size reduction takes place. Then they will be carried away by the high moving streams of air or steam. They will be moving along with it, and since they are moving in a high velocity, we are not able to control the streamlines properly. So hence there will be interparticulate attrition, means what the one particle will be pushing other one, other particle will be pushing other one. So because of this only the size reduction takes place. That is the major contributor. This is the major contributor to the size reduction to take place. Whereas some amount of the size reduction will also take place when these particles, which particles? Heavier particles which are moving along the walls of the confining chamber. They are not allowing the particle to go away. Though the particle size is more, its mass is more, it experiences more amount of centrifugal force, it goes away from the center, but the chamber will not, the pipeline or the loop or the metal of construction will not allow it to go out. So hence that is called as confining chamber. So as it is rubbing against the confining chamber, the size reduction will also take place. That fraction is very less when compared to the interparticulate attrition. Internal classification keeps the large particles in the mill until they reduce to the desired size. So now it is very important that how does the change in the directions are there, because as I said we are introducing streams with a high velocity, but how do we control the directions of the flows? That is important. But here no problem. If the size of the particle is less, its mass will be less, its centrifugal force will be less, so it will be acting other side of the confining chamber. Heavier particles will be in the confining chamber zone only. So if an attempt is made to take out the stream away from the confining chamber or near to the center, we will be getting materials whose sizes are small. The suspending gas is usually compressed air or superheated steam admitted at a pressure of 7 atmospheres through the energizing nozzle. So you can imagine how much amount of steam we are going to require here, and that on a continuous basis, or air we require on a continuous basis. So with this, you can imagine how much amount of energy which we are giving. You can imagine if you do balance, if you do the heat balance, how much amount of coal or energy is required to make a superheated steam at 7 atmospheres. So that much is required for what purpose? For reducing a small particle to ultrafine particle. In the mill shown in the diagram which we have seen, the grinding chamber is an oval loop of pipe 25 to 200 millimeters in diameter and 1.2 to 2.4 meters height. So that is the length of the loop, that is 1.2 to 2.4 it is varying, whereas the diameter of the pipeline will be varying from 25 to 20 millimeters. Since the material which is handling is at high pressure, so naturally the thickness of the metal should also be more. Feed enters near the bottom of the loop through the venturi injector. Why venturi injector? Because you know, whenever the fluid is passing through a narrow area, narrow diameter, the velocity increases. Now we want the narrow area to be reduced because the fluid should increase its velocity. When it increases, what will happen? It induces momentum transfer to the particle which is coming slowly from the top. Because from the conveying chamber, it is falling into the feed hopper. To the feed hopper, by gravity, it falls down. But we are supposed to increase the velocity of it so that it strikes the surface and then breaks into pieces. So this is done at the point called as venturi injector. Classification of the ground particles takes place at the upper bend of the loop. As the gas streams flows around this bend at high speed, the coarser particles are thrown outward against the outer wall, while the fines congregate at the inner wall. So the fine particles will be concentrating along the walls of the inner wall, and the heavier particles will be going away from the center. A discharge opening in the inner wall at this point leads to a cyclone separator and a back filter for the product. So now I said that how we are going to take out the product, we will be taking a small line from the inner cone, so that in the inner cone what will happen, we will have smaller particles and the air automatically throws out the small particles from it, but we will be getting a mixed feed. What is the feed, sir? Here we will be getting air or steam along with the small size particles. So we wanted to separate the small size particles, so you can keep a cyclone separator. So cyclone separator is the device which is used to separate solids from a gas on a continuous basis. And afterwards, to ensure that there is no losses of solids are there, we can keep a back filter. Especially these are used in the pharmaceutical industries, where the pharmaceutical industries demand particle size should be very small, very small, very small. If the particle size is very small, then what will happen? The amount of time it is taking to dissolve will be very less, and then patient will be cured very fast. So hence, there is an ever demand is there for the reduced size particles in the pharmaceutical industries. Remember. Yeah. So cyclone separator followed by the back filter, which can be separated out. The classification is aided by the complex pattern of swirl generated in the gas stream at the bend of the loop. So swirling means what? As we have seen that anything which is rotating the circuitry field will kill a swirl or Sudigundam. So this is important for us because we have to create the currents for the separation of centrifugal forces or centripetal forces. Fluid energy mills can accept feed particles as large as 12 millimeters, but are more effective when the feed particles are no larger than 100 mesh. So if you keep 12 millimeter particles, it will also work, but generally we require feed of 100 mesh. So you can imagine in our problems where is 100 mesh screen is there. It may be at the bottom one. After 100 we have 150 mesh, then we have 200 mesh. What is 200 mesh? 0.074 millimeter. So roughly what will be the size of 100 mesh and to what extent it is reduced, that is important. They reduce up to 1 ton. See, again the capacity is falling. So as we try to go in the hierarchy from the primary crushers to the last crushers, what is happening is, one interesting factor we should observe is the capacity is falling drastically, power consumption increases drastically, efficiency is also falling drastically, and the size reduction ratio is also decreasing drastically. So these are the conclusions which we are supposed to remember till we complete one more concept in this particular unit. I repeat once again, as we are going from primary crushers to the last crushers, what is happening? The capacities are falling down, the power consumptions are increasing, the efficiencies are lost, we are losing more amount of energy. Okay, there is a fall in the efficiencies are there, and even the reduction ratios are also reduced. So this is what we are supposed to think before we go for another concept. And then this diagram we have seen. Yeah, averaging to half to 10 micrometers in diameter, using 1 to 4 kg of stream or 6 to 9 kg of stream per kilogram of the product. Loop mills can be processed up to 6,000 kgs per hour. So these are the specifications of the fluidized energy mill. Then we have seen one agitated mill in between, that in the same description only here. But what is this agitated mill? It is simply nothing but we are going to close, like we will have a closed container, add some grinding medium to it, and then we will vibrate it. So this vibration should be reducing the size of the particles. And there is, of course, sorry, there is no diagram is available for it, but let us see for it. For some ultrafine grinding operations, small batch non-rotatory mills, which are not rotating, containing a solid grinding medium are available. The medium consisting of hard solids such as balls, pellets or sand grains. So we have a container in which we add all those things, balls or pellets or sand grains. And these mills are vertical 4 to 1200 liters in capacity. That is the volume he has given. Filled with the liquid in which the grinding medium is suspended. In some designs, the charge is agitated with a multi-armed impeller, in others used especially for grinding hard materials such as silica or titanium dioxide. A reciprocating central column vibrates and the vessel contends to about 20 Hz, and a concentrated free slurry is admitted at the top and the product is withdrawn from the stream of the bottom. Agitator mills are usually useful in producing products in the range of 1 micrometers in size or finer. So what is the meaning of this entire system is we are having a container in that, but no, remember, we are seeing the concept of tumbling mills. If you see the English dictionary, tumbling means what? Add a solid particle into a container and then start shaking it. That is called as tumbling in the dictionary meaning. So here also the same thing. Ball mill, if you see in a container, we are having solid particles which are rotating. Fluidized energy mill, they are also rotating inside a container system. Now in agitator mills, we have a container in which we add some fluid to it and then we add some grinding medium to it, and now we are going to charge the feed to it, and then this material externally is subjected to vibrations to up to 20 Hz, and this will create some amount of concept of size reduction in the particles. Then you take out the slurry. Slurry means what? You will get liquid, grinding medium, and then the crushed product. You separate them, you will get your product, you dry it and send it to some other process. So this is one more method of reducing the size of the particles, which can be obtained in the size of 1 micrometer in size. Colloid mills are very important. Before that, we have a diagram for the colloid mill. Yeah. So this is the diagram of a colloid mill. We see in the theory that the ointments and some of the pastes are made with this. It's a very simple diagram. We have a proboscis casing in which a rotor is rotating. The clearance between, so this is the central shaft and this is the rotor blade. Okay, so this is rotating in this entire setup. Okay, this is the casing, and we have a narrow gap here. Okay, and with the high pressure, the feed is injected into the system. So what will happen? The shaft is rotating with a higher RPM. The rotor will also rotate with higher RPM. So there will be a high shear forces will be applied on it. And see, the inlet area is more, but as you try to come down, what is happening? The outlet area is decreasing. So this will see that if you put particles of different sizes, they will be crushed and they will be suspended in that base perfectly. And then we get a perfectly paste from this side. So here the area is more, but as we try to go, what will happen? The outlet area is decreasing. So in this narrow gap, it has to come. Now, how it is coming? Because I said, here we are applying a pressure and then this material is supposed to go to this narrow gap. So apart from the size reduction, uniform mixing will also take place in this colloid mill. Colloid mill. In a colloid mill, intense fluid shear in a high velocity stream is used to disperse particles or liquid droplets to form a stable suspension or an emulsion. So whatever is the application is there, that is attained in this one. The final shape of the particle or the droplets is usually less than 5 micrometers. I said crushing will also take place, mixing will also take place, or it is suspension, whatever that is takes place inside. Our logic is what? The material has to be uniformly dispersed or spread inside the big volume. Often there is a little actual size reduction in the mill. The principal action is the disruption of lightly bounded clusters and agglomerates. What are agglomerates? Very small size particles which are found from grouping of, for example, milk you take. If you add milk is what exactly? The fine suspension of solid particles. So if you add a lime, what will happen? It will reduce the repulsive forces, and then a group of particles will come together. So thus clusters are formed and they group together and agglomerates will form. Then like that the size will increase, and at the bottom what will happen? You will have a sediment will be formed. After a certain amount of time you can filter and then you can take out the polymer and then you use it for some other purpose. And these will be broken and then we will have suspension of syrups, milks, tomato purees, ointments, because you are supposed to add your active ingredient sulforamycin in the ethanol base, so you are going to suspend it. Paints, greases are typical products are obtained in this particular manner. So the end one is these are the uses for it. Chemical additives are often useful for stabilizing the dispersion because after settling, what will happen? If after mixing is over, if time is more, if the settling will take place, the product may not be accepted by the consumer. So the stabilizers are also added in this. In most colloid mills, the feed liquid is pumped between closely spaced surfaces, one of which is moving relatively to the other at a speed of 50 meters per second or more. In the mill shown in the diagram, the liquid passes through the narrow spaces between the disc-shaped rotor and the casing. The clearance are adjustable down to 25 micrometers. So as I said just now, the inlet area is more, outlet area is also less. So we can also control this, and it goes up to 25 micrometers. So you can imagine how fine particles will be reduced and they will be suspended in that medium. After cooling is required to remove the heat generated, because as you know, whenever we deal with isolation equipment, we apply high energy, but that will not be taken by the particles, some will come out in the form of heat. So if it is a heat sensitive materials are there, immediately you are supposed to cool it. Then capacities of the colloid mills are relatively low, ranging from 2 to 3 liters per, because of only one thing, the gap is only 25 micrometers, very small size, and we have to apply high pressures to pump it. So hence the capacity is very less. For small mills up to 440 liters per minute for the large unit. So this is the variation of small unit and a large unit. Who is roll number 7?
Sir.
ఎవరు నాన్న నువ్వు? నీ పేరు చెప్పు నాన్న.
Sir Ganesh, sir Ganesh.
Very good. Roll number 13 ఎవరు?
Sir Bhanu Prakash.
Very good.